the University of the Thai Chamber of Commerce School of Business. And today I will present the research called Thailand 4.0, a new value-based economy and its implication to wellness business. At this point, the research is still not fully completed, but I think it is a very great to have such a chance to before be presented in this conference. These research objectives are to evaluate the strategy that set wellness business as a driven mechanism of the country, to explore crisis management of the business during the pandemic time, and to see the difference between the voice of the policymaker practitioners and the business sector. The research used developmental state theory, neo-authoritarian developmental state theory, social network theory, and social capital theory to portray and to be applied to the case. The research is a qualitative research by nature, as it uses semi-structured interview and focus groups to find the answer. The main finding of this research is that since 2002, where the Thai government has set medical and wellness tourism as a country's development strategy to make Thailand a hub for medical and wellness tourism for the country's politics has faced two coup d'etats, and the country's administrations have been rough as it is controlled by different political groups, both civilian and military. Governments have followed the strategy and have highlighted medical and wellness business sector as one of their development strategies as well as policies. The military government has stepped forward from solely being authoritarian state and transformed the country to become a neo-authoritarian developmental state where it practices capitalism while limits people's participation in politics. On top of that, the state implements policy that benefit healthcare and wellness industry, especially SMEs, to ensure that it achieves the goal of being a medical and wellness hub of the region. The second finding is that the wellness hub strategy has failed due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and Thailand is now coping with the situation by relieving the pandemic and reopening the country at the same time. Third, the conflicted information between local government bodies and the Center of the COVID Situation Administration, or the CCSA, has often occurred, and that causes confusion for both officials and business sector. The research concludes that it is possible to effectively implement the wellness hub policy without include the COVID-19 pandemic into the context, and every relevant partners need to work around that. Also, what worked before the pandemic is not going to work now. What Thailand needs is to craft a crisis management plan and to redesign the policy or measures to counter this kind of situation if it ever happens again in the future. Historically, Thailand developed the country economy through its competitive advantage in rich natural resources and biodiversity, and devoted most its investment and attentiveness in the agriculture sector, which is the 1.0 economic development phase. Then the country entered the 2.0 and 3.0 phases, where the country received most revenue from light industry and heavy industry, respectively. Yet Thailand still faces three traps that hinder it from succeeding the expected economic growth, namely middle income trap, inequality trap, and imbalance trap. These traps merged with structural problems led to the country's low effectiveness in economic development. Therefore, to frame economic improvement for 20 years, from 2017 to 2036 onward, the government has come up with the idea of Thailand 4.0 economic development strategies that moves the focus to innovation-based development and to connect the country's economy to the universal level. The mentioned three traps obstruct country's economic development. That's why the country has come with the strategy that I just mentioned, and is called Thailand 4.0 model, that is comprised of three engine of growth. First, productive growth engine. This engine is to move Thailand from middle-income country to the high-income country. It is driven by innovation, wisdom, technology, and creativity. This cluster aims to foster research and development capabilities and to support innovation-led business. Therefore, this productive growth engine shows the effect to overcome the middle-income trap. 2. Inclusive growth engine. This engine aims for income distribution and to recreate equal opportunity and wealth to respond to all social and economic challenges. This engine also aims to achieve a build of provincial economic cluster networks and grassroots economic at a community level to support social enterprises to create business-friendly environment, empower SMEs, international competitiveness, and to create skilled labor to respond to changes in the future. Hence, this inclusive growth engine is there for overcoming inequality trap. 3. The green growth engine. This engine aims for renewable energy consumption. That is, it shifts from cost advantage method in the past to the more sustainable method, the loss advantage method. The key of loss advantage is to improve production process so that it affects as least as it can to the environment. This benefits the country and the globe at the same time because the environmentally friendly production process is the answer of how we conquer imbalance trap we have faced in reality. This three engine of Thailand 4.0 model will lead Thailand to become a high-income country where the wealth is well distributed and green, environmentally friendly economic practices, which are the main character of the first world country that Thailand will achieve the status within the 21st century. Thailand's nationalism has played its part in this new innovative Pracharat development strategies. The word Pracharat was selected from the lyrics of the national anthem. The development strategy aims to mobilize the grassroots economy as well as the national economic performance as a whole. Expected contents of the strategies include sufficiency economy, green farming, holistic development, livelihood rights, people participation, bottom-up planning, environmental conservation, and local resource management. The Pracharat development strategy will also be included in the 20-year national strategic plan, which focuses on sufficiency economy and people-centered development. It will be under the vision of stability, prosperity, and sustainability. According to the Health System Research Institution, Thailand has faced challenges in numerous scopes that affect health system. As well, the Thai government has set medical and wellness tourism as a country development strategy to make Thailand a hub for medical and wellness tourism activities since 2002. With medical and wellness tourism as a new S-curve, innovation is to ensure that Thailand's economy will continuously develop. That is, the country will profit from the new wave of innovation, while the first S-curve or the heavy industry-based economy in the past will eventually fade out. The first S-curve is the industry that Thailand has capabilities to produce, and it is a potential industry that had created tremendous economic value, but it lacked technological improvement and generated low growth rate. On the other hand, the new S-curve industry is a new industry that has intense use of technology and innovation. It is the industry that has great potential growth in the future. However, as it is a new industry and acquire low number of players, it's required that the relevant actors must support the industry in order to make it strong and highly competitive in the near future. Let's look at the theory. First is the developmental state and the neo-authoritarian developmental state theory. The developmental state says that the economy is state-led and the state can intervene in the economic system at any cost to ensure that it is going to the right way, the nation's prosperity. The examples of the developmental state in the present are Taiwan, Japan, and Korea. However, after 1990s, democracy showed failures in many cases and that led to a new framework called the Authoritarian Developmental State that combines state-led capitalism where a state plays both roles as regulators and player. We can see the example of this new emerging theory by looking at China and Singapore nowadays. Looking at the example of South Korea, Taiwan, and Japan, developmental state does not require that the state to be authoritarian in order to be qualified as developmental state. On the other hand, there are many cases of authoritarian countries that fail miserably in developing their economies, such as authoritarian Latin American states under bureaucratic authoritarianism. Therefore, though authoritarianism can facilitate effective intervention in economic and development policies, it does not guarantee economic success. Additionally, in globalization era, though it is more difficult for a state to intervene in economic policy because the state must endure international political economic rules of embedded neoliberalism that support free market, privatization of public enterprises, and monetary reform. A neo-developmental state could also adapt itself to cope with democracy and democratic institutional structures and agents that attach to the regime. Hence, that does not mean that the state roles in managing the economy has weakened or ended in globalization era. Rather, the state has adapted itself to cope with globalization. Southeast Asian developmental state model was created during Lee Kuan Yew premiership from 1959 to 1990. His opponents were sent to jails and Singaporeans were treated like children. Lee created Singaporean state with components of a modern state, then added the Asians value to it. The Asian alternative of Singapore model is different from the Western state, where the government should be democratic and generous, because the Singaporean model is that the government is elitist and stingy. The model was drawn from Lee's assumption that Western democracy was no longer efficient. Both capitalism and society need to be directed, and getting the government right is the key to the regime's survival and success. While Singapore provides an Asian alternative with elitist and stingy government model, China is a more brutal version. Chinese state directs both public and private sectors, especially state-owned companies that dominate strategic industries. More importantly, China's state capital has gone global as its company has been reaching out abroad. For example, there are several Chinese companies pursuing oil, timber, diamonds, copper, and iron ore in Africa, while other Chinese businessmen are building infrastructures to facilitate the upcoming transaction aside. Therefore, to China, state capitalism has become its main foreign activity. The third theory is the social network theory. This theory assumes that people tend to think and behave similar because they are connected. That is, the theory scrutinizes collection of ties and linkage among a defined group of actors, whether it's individual, group, or organization. Moreover, the connection as a whole can be used to interpret the social behavior of the actor involved. The actor can also be connected or divided through the use of the network. The theory also makes analysis of a range of organizational phenomena at both at the micro level or at the macro level. The theory should be applied to the research in order to explain how wellness business as a group utilize their connection to manipulate the policy related to wellness business issues in Thailand. As well, the theory helps describe how organizational phenomena at both macro and micro levels should be put into analysis. The last theory is social capital theories. The theory's main point is that people receive both tangible and intangible resources at the individual, group, and organizational levels through social interaction and connection. A key focus in this theory is that social capital resources are embedded within and available through
Surada, may I request you to stop the video and just summarize, please?
That's why. Sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes. If you could just summarize, because we are overshooting on time.
Okay. To summarize, the wellness business in Thailand right now is on a limbo because we have the COVID-19 pandemic, and all the policy laid out right now have not incorporated the pandemic into the framework. So I think what they believe that worked in the past will not going to work in the future. So the research is about finding the way to make wellness business work in the future, and how to do the crisis management and to look at the resilience management. That's the summary.